feel cement. You put this in the bag too? Well, you don't mind. I love it. You put...
His nails crazy, right?
ABC.
Oh yeah, I apologize in advance for the way my bathroom smelled. I took a 2 hours.
I don't care, I just took it.
Another one? Tired shit. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yo, I had to go.
Did you catch that? Did you watch that and feel what I felt the very first time I saw it? Because here is the thing. According to investigators, at the exact moment that live stream was being filmed, Celeste Rivas Hernandez had already been dead for more than 2 months. And the prosecution's brief specifically alleges that David Burke lied to friends, business associates, and others who noticed a strong smell of decay in and around his home and his vehicle. Not a general smell, a smell of decay, and he made up explanations for it. So when you watch that video, when you see him stop a live stream with his friends to apologize for a smell and blame it on the bathroom, you have to ask yourself, is that a coincidence, or is that exactly what the prosecution's brief is describing? Nobody has definitively answered that question yet. But it is the kind of detail that is very hard to set aside once you have seen it. If this is your first time here, this channel is called Beyond the Verdict, and we cover cases like this one with the depth and care they deserve. If that is something you value, take a second right now to hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel continue doing this work. Now let's get into everything. Before we go any further, I want to make sure everyone watching has the full picture, because this case has a lot of moving parts, and the updates only make sense if you understand the foundation. David Anthony Burke is 21 years old. He is known to the music world as D4vd, the artist behind a song called Romantic Homicide, which went viral across streaming platforms and social media and launched his career. He was arrested on April 16, 2026. He is currently charged with first-degree murder, with special circumstances, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. He has pleaded not guilty. His defense team, led by attorney Blair Burke, has stated that the evidence will show he did not murder Celeste and was not the cause of her death. All of these charges relate to the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez from Lake Elsinore, California. Celeste's remains were found on September 8, 2025, one day after what would have been her 15th birthday, inside the front trunk of a Tesla Model X registered to Burke. The car had been towed to a Hollywood tow yard after sitting parked on a residential street for several weeks. A tow yard manager noticed a horrific smell and flies swarming around the front trunk area. LAPT was called, a search warrant was obtained, and investigators opened it. Inside was a black body bag covered in insects containing a severely decomposed head and torso. Beneath it was a plastic garbage bag holding dismembered arms and legs. 2 fingers were missing from her left hand, specifically her ring finger and pinky finger. Investigators believe those fingers were removed because Celeste had a tattoo of Burke's name on her ring finger. Dental records confirmed her identity on September 16, 2025. Investigators say Burke stabbed Celeste to death at his Hollywood Hills rental home on the night of April 23, 2025. They allege he then dismembered her body in the garage using chainsaws inside a blue inflatable kiddie pool he had ordered from Amazon under a fake name. The name he allegedly used was Victoria Mendez. He then placed her remains into a body bag and a garbage bag, loaded them into the front trunk of his Tesla, and left her there for months while continuing to go about his life. That is the foundation. Now let me take you through the updates, starting with that July 4th livestream, because I think this moment deserves more careful attention than it has received. It is a Twitch stream. Burke is on camera with 2 friends, Neil Langston, who goes by Neo, and another person known as Sukana. The atmosphere is normal, nothing seems off on the surface, and then Burke stops and addresses a smell. He apologizes for it, attributes it to having used the bathroom a couple of hours earlier, Neil Langston's reaction is visible on camera. He looks confused, caught off guard by the comment, like it came out of nowhere, and did not quite fit the moment. Now here is why that detail carries the weight that it does within this case. The prosecution's brief, filed ahead of the preliminary hearing, contains a very specific allegation. It states that Burke lied to friends, business associates and others, who noticed a strong smell of decay in and around his home and his vehicle. The wording there is precise. This was not described as a vague or occasional complaint. Investigators are alleging that multiple people in Burke's circle noticed something, and that he provided fabricated explanations for what they were smelling. According to the timeline established by investigators, Celeste died on April 23rd. The Amazon orders for chainsaws and a body bag began arriving at the property starting May 1st. By the time that July 4th stream was being filmed, weeks had passed since investigators believed the dismemberment occurred. And here is the layer that makes this even more significant. Neil Langston, the friend visible in that video, has reportedly testified before the grand jury that was convened to investigate this case. He has not been charged in connection with Celeste's death, but he was present in that house, in that video, during that window of time, and he has already sat before a grand jury. What investigators asked him about, and what he told them, is not publicly known, but people are not called before a grand jury in a murder investigation, because they exist at the farthest edge of the story. His presence in that video, his presence in that house, and his presence in front of that grand jury are all things that matter as this case moves toward the preliminary hearing. And I want to be direct with you about something important here. We do not know definitively what that smell was during that live stream. It is possible it was exactly what Burke said it was. No one can conclude otherwise from a video clip alone. But when you read a prosecution brief that specifically alleges Burke lied to people around him about a smell of decay, and you then watch a video of him inside that same property during that same period of time, stopping a conversation unprompted to explain a smell and attribute it to something mundane, that combination is not something you can simply dismiss. Now let's move to Santa Barbara County, because there are active developments there right now that are important to understand. Investigators established that Burke allegedly made 3 separate late-night drives to a remote stretch of State Route 154 near Lake Cachuma in Santa Barbara County. The first of those drives allegedly occurred on the night of April 23, 2025. The same night, investigators say Celeste was killed. He allegedly drove to that location in the middle of the night and returned to his Hollywood Hills home in the early hours of April 24th. A second trip allegedly occurred on May 8th, a third on May 31st. Then, in January 2026, a California highway maintenance worker discovered Celeste's United States passport card discarded on the side of that same road. That single piece of evidence placed something belonging directly to Celeste at a location Burke had allegedly visited 3 times under the cover of darkness. It connected what investigators believed about his movements to a physical object tied to the victim. That area has now become the subject of an active private investigation. Steve Pfizer, a private investigator hired by the owner of the Hollywood Hills rental property, traveled to that Santa Barbara location on May 1st, 2026, and conducted a full aerial search using high-resolution drone equipment. He spent an entire day flying drone imagery over the terrain in and around the specific area where Celeste's passport card was recovered. He noted that State Route 154 has a gate in that section that closes from sunset to sunrise. What that means practically is that on those late-night visits, Burke's vehicle would have been constrained to remain relatively close to the road. He could not have driven deep into the terrain in the middle of the night. If he was disposing of anything heavy, it would not have gone far from the road or far into the water. Pfizer also noted that trails lead from the road down toward the water, and that when flying the drone at low altitude, the water in that area was clear enough to see several feet below the surface. He captured thousands of high-resolution images and has been processing them through detection analysis software. We are not at a point where any findings from that analysis have been made public, but the search is active and ongoing. Feezer also observed that the area along State Route 154 is covered by automated license plate readers, which leads directly into one of the most important structural questions in this entire investigation. How do investigators actually know Burke was at that location on those specific dates, and how solid is that evidence going to be when challenged at trial? The most likely primary source is cell phone geolocation data. If Burke had his phone with him during those drives, and there is no indication he left it behind, his device would have been continuously generating location information. When you combine cell tower pings, GPS data, and the location records stored on the phone and backed up to iCloud, the result is location tracking that can be accurate to within a few feet. Investigators in this case accessed a 10 terabyte iCloud account linked to Burke through the warrant process. That is an enormous volume of data, and it encompasses a significant window of time. There is also something worth understanding about how smartphones behave, even when they appear to be off. Most modern devices continue to emit limited location signals, regardless of whether the screen is dark or the battery appears depleted. That is the underlying mechanism that makes functions like Find My work. Investigators who have executed 54 search warrants in the course of this investigation understand how to retrieve that data. The second independent source is the Tesla itself. Tesla vehicles maintain their own onboard data logs, entirely separate from any connected phone. Those logs record speed, location, navigation history, and door events. The car was eventually in investigators' possession. That vehicle's own records could independently corroborate every trip, every departure time, every destination, and every return. The third potential source is the license plate reader network Feezer noted along Route 154. These automated cameras photograph every passing license plate and log the time and date. The primary provider of this infrastructure is a company called Flock Safety, and their standard data retention window is approximately 30 days. That creates a real evidentiary gap here, because investigators did not discover Celeste's body until September 8th, more than 4 months after those April and May trips were allegedly made. The license plate data for the earliest trips was almost certainly gone, before investigators even knew to look for it. But the phone records and the Tesla data do not work that way. They do not expire on a 30-day cycle. They were sitting in cloud storage and in the vehicle's own system, preserved, waiting to be pulled. And the significance of that cannot be overstated. Geolocation data drawn from multiple independent sources, a phone, a vehicle's onboard system, and cell tower triangulation is among the most difficult categories of evidence for a defense team to argue against. These are not witness accounts that can be challenged for faulty memory or bias. These are time-stamped, independently generated, corroborating digital records. If the phone places Burke on State Route 154 at midnight on April 23rd, and the Tesla's own data reflects the same thing, and cell tower records triangulate that same location, the convergence of those three sources creates an evidentiary wall that is extremely difficult to dismantle. Now I want to spend time on the night of April 23rd itself, because the prosecution's timeline contains details that are striking, and that will almost certainly become the central battleground of this entire case. According to investigators, Celeste arrived at Burke's Hollywood Hills home at approximately 10 p.m. By approximately 10:20 to 10:30 p.m., roughly 20 minutes after her arrival, Burke was already sending text messages to her phone, asking where she was. And then, at 11:30 that same night, he was in his Tesla, driving north on the 101, towards Santa Barbara County. Investigators say those 10:30 texts were a staged alibi. She was already dead when he sent them. And that Santa Barbara drive, they say, was to dispose of her belongings, and possibly the murder weapon. Now, here is where it gets genuinely complicated, and I want to be honest about this, because I think it matters. If Celeste was already dead by 10:30 p.m., that means she arrived at 10 p.m. and was dead within 20 minutes. That is a very compressed window. Is it impossible? No. But it is fast. Fast enough that the defense is going to examine it very carefully. There is another layer to this timeline worth understanding. Everything that came after April 23rd, the shovel, the chainsaws, the body bag, the pool, all of those Amazon orders placed under the fake name Victoria Mendez, none of that had arrived yet. At the time of Burke's first Santa Barbara trip, the shovel was ordered on April 24th, the chainsaws on May 1st, the body bag and pool on May 5th. So if the Santa Barbara trip on the night of the murder was not to dispose of those tools, because those tools had not arrived yet, what exactly was he disposing of?
Myself that would kind of come out at random moments. He would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as the detective. I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself.
Investigators say her belongings, her phone, her identification, and most likely the murder weapon, which they believe was a knife. Those were things that needed to go immediately and could not wait for Amazon deliveries. And if this was premeditated, if he had already made up his mind before she arrived, then all of it makes a particular kind of terrible sense. The staged texts were already planned. The Santa Barbara route had already been thought through. The Amazon orders were mentally queued up and ready to be placed the following morning. He had a plan, and the compressed timeline reflects someone who was executing it. There is an alternative theory that has been raised, and it is worth acknowledging. What if Celeste arrived, something happened, she left, and the killing occurred somewhere else, possibly even out on that Santa Barbara road? What if those 10:30 texts asking where she was were genuine and not staged at all? In that scenario, Burke would still bear responsibility for her death, but it would change the location, the sequence, and certain categories of physical evidence. That is a theory. It is not the prosecution's account, and the prosecution is the party working from the complete evidentiary record. But that 20-minute window is going to matter enormously when this reaches trial. Now I need to address something directly, because it has been circulating online, and it has caused real harm to a family that is already living through something unimaginable. Rumors have spread, suggesting that David Burke may have been paying money to Celeste's family, that her parents somehow knew about the relationship and accepted it, that some kind of financial arrangement existed. Celeste's father, Celeste Rivas, has broken his silence on this. Through the family's attorney, Patrick Steinfeld, he issued a direct statement. He said he never had any personal contact with David Burke. He said his family has not received any money from Burke, or from anyone connected to him. That denial is as clear as a public statement can be. And beyond the statement itself, those rumors do not hold up when you examine the actual evidence picture. If Burke had been making financial payments to Celeste's family, that would be documented. Wire transfers, cash payments, financial records of any kind. That is exactly the category of evidence that 54 search warrants targeting his accounts, his management team, and his associates would be positioned to surface. And if that evidence existed, it would serve the prosecution powerfully. It would demonstrate that Burke understood the relationship was illegal, that he was actively working to conceal it. Evidence that strong would be in the prosecution's brief. It is not there, and that absence is meaningful. What the evidence does show is a family that tried to protect their daughter and was systematically outmaneuvered by someone with far greater resources. When Celeste's family found out something was wrong, they took her phone away. They filed 2 separate missing person reports. They attempted to cut off contact entirely. On the other side of those attempts was a 20-year-old music artist who drove 80 miles to a junior high school and paid another student $1,000 in cash, specifically to smuggle a phone to Celeste, so he could bypass her family's efforts to reach her. The power imbalance embedded in that single act tells you almost everything you need to know about this situation. None of what happened to Celeste is her family's fault. None of it. Celeste's family has since released an updated statement through attorney Patrick Steinfeld. They have decided to make no further public comments, now or in the future. They said there are no words to describe what they are living through. They said they still have bills to pay, and jobs to go to every day, and they ask for grace and compassion. That is what they are owed. There is one more area of this case that has not received the attention it deserves, and it carries significant implications for the evidence being built against Burke. Throughout 2024, Celeste allegedly traveled with him extensively: Las Vegas, London, Texas, where she reportedly met members of his family. All of this is referenced in the prosecution's brief, and investigators say travel records are among the evidence they have gathered. But Celeste was 13 and then 14 years old during all of this. A minor whose family had filed missing person reports. A minor whose parents had tried to cut off her access to Burke. And yet she was allegedly flying across the country and across the Atlantic Ocean with a man years older than she was. Private investigator Steve Feiser flagged this publicly and specifically highlighted what international travel to the United Kingdom requires for a minor not traveling with a parent or legal guardian. A minor traveling to the UK must be able to demonstrate that a parent or guardian has consented to the travel and accommodation arrangements. If a standard visitor visa is involved, the adult traveling with the minor must be identified by name within the visa
kind of come out at random
itself.
moments. He would
That
commit the
means
crimes that
documentation
I would have to
exists.
solve as a
If Celeste
detective.
traveled
I'd be
to
like
London with Burke,
solving murders
someone
that I'm
signed
committing
paperwork.
myself.
Someone submitted an application that named David Burke in connection with a minor's international travel.
Where do you see yourself
That
in the
is a
next
paper
5 years?
trail
Okay,
with
so
his
the plan
name
is
on it.
hopefully this music thing
And the
takes off
documentation
crazy
does not
next
stop
year.
at visa
Why is he
applications.
saying? Why are you saying that like
International
you're not,
travel
like, up
requires
there?
flight
Well,
bookings
it's not
and
there
hotel
yet.
reservations.
It's like even crazier
In
next
Burke's
year.
professional
And then I'm going
context,
crazy year
those
for the next
logistics
3
would
years,
almost
and
certainly
then
have been
on the
handled by
fourth
a
year, I'm
manager
retired.
or a member of his
And on
team.
the 5th year, I'm off
People
the
who would have
grid,
known he was
living
traveling
somewhere, like, on an
internationally
island
with a
this
teenage
crazy
girl.
crib.
Investigators
No social media, no
subpoenaed
digital
Burke's
footprint.
booking agents
I'm
and
just
management
gone.
team as part of those
gone.
54 search warrants.
In 5 years,
What
I'm
those
gonna be
individuals
gone.
knew
You still remember me?
and what they told
Yeah, bro.
investigators
You'll have, like,
may
the secret
become
codes
part
to
of
the
the
mansion.
public
Yeah. Pull
record
up on
at
the
the
What's the secret
preliminary
code? Give
hearing
us the first
or
one.
at trial.
Absolutely not.
If travel
Fans noticed the question was where he wanted to be in 5 years, but he mentioned specifically where he wanted to be in 4.
It is
One comment
corroborating
wrote,
evidence
"This clip
of
was
the
posted in
nature and
January of
duration
this
their
year, so she was
relationship.
14.
It speaks directly not only to the murder charge, but to the charge of continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14 that sits alongside it. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for May 26, 2026. Every update that has emerged ahead of that date adds another layer of difficulty for the defense. The live stream video, with its unprompted explanation of a smell, lands directly on top of the prosecution's allegation that Burke lied to people around him about the odor of a decomposing body. The drone search in Santa Barbara is still actively processing imagery. The geolocation data from his phone and his Tesla places him on State Route 154 in the middle of the night on multiple occasions. The London travel documentation, if it exists in the form investigators believe it does, places Burke by name on international travel with a minor. And Celeste's father has directly denied that his family received any financial payments, which removes the only argument that might have suggested family complicity. What does the defense have right now? They have a plea of not guilty. They have Blair Burke, one of the most experienced criminal defense attorneys in the country, and they have the constitutional right at trial to challenge every piece of evidence the prosecution presents, and to raise reasonable doubt wherever they can find it. Trials are unpredictable. No outcome is certain before a jury delivers its verdict. But the picture being assembled in this case, the DNA recovered from the garage, the plastic fragments found within Celeste's remains, the Amazon purchase records, the geolocation data, the text messages, the surveillance footage, and a live stream video of Burke apologizing for a smell, inside the same property where investigators say her body was still present, that picture is becoming very difficult to argue against. But before any of that, before the hearing dates and the legal strategies and the evidentiary arguments, there is a girl from Lake Elsinore, California, who deserves to be remembered as exactly who she was. Celeste Abigail Rivas Hernandez, 14 years old, the daughter of Salvadoran immigrants who worked hard and built something for their family. A girl who loved to sing and loved to dance, who had movie nights with her family every Friday, who had a name tattooed on her ring finger that she believed meant something. Her father had to stand up publicly and defend his family against internet rumors. While grieving her, her family has now gone silent because they cannot absorb the daily weight of new details about what was done to their daughter's body. They have bills to pay, they have jobs to report to. They are trying to survive each day in the aftermath of something no family should ever have to survive. All they want is justice for Celeste. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what is happening in this case, please subscribe to Beyond the Verdict and turn on notifications. The preliminary hearing is coming. Everything that follows it is coming after that. We are going to be here for every development and cover it with the full attention it deserves. Share this video because the more people who know Celeste's name and understand what investigators say was done to her, the better. That is the one thing all of us watching from the outside can do. David Anthony Burke has pleaded not guilty to all charges and is presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. In loving memory of Celeste Abigail Rivas Hernandez, September 7, 2010 to April 23, 2025.